Welcome to the Cruise Retreat Podcast. Hi, I'm Rita Perez, and I'm a travel advisor specializing in, you guessed it, cruise ship retreats. This podcast is for service-based entrepreneurs and corporate decision makers to learn more about staying everyone's favorite company with a cruise ship retreat. Ready to increase your client or employee retention? Listen in on this week's show. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. Super awesome to have you here today. I have another guest with me, and her name is Nermine Zachary. She helps people figure out who they are so they can own it, articulate, then go do it on purpose. The key is focusing on strengths building instead of weakness fixing. Her work is centered around the Clifton Strengths assessment as a certified coach. And she coaches one-on-one and facilitates workshops on how to strategically apply strengths in ways to accelerate performance, energy, relationships, and results. Welcome, Nermine.
Thank you, Rita. So glad to be here.
Yes, likewise. When we had our first discussion about talking about the different strengths and how they can be utilized, that is just my jam. So I knew that I had to bring it to people who are interested in hosting cruise retreats, because I think it's one, good for within the organization, but two, a really great workshop that can be utilized for their retreats as well.
Absolutely.
So why is it important for organizations to recognize individual strengths?
It makes, well, first of all, a company wants to bring out the best in their employees, wants to create an environment where people are, really doing their best. They're feeling fulfilled. They're engaged. They're happy doing their work. When they're happy, they're doing their best work.
Yes.
And so focusing on our strengths builds our confidence. And actually, there's some really cool statistics around when companies focus on strengths. The first of all, productivity is 43% higher.
Oh, wow.
Individual performance can be 36% higher. They can be they're likely to be 6 times more engaged at work.
Wow.
And they'll be part of they'll experience high teamwork, and they'll probably be part of a high performing team. And what's really cool is when I know my strengths and I'm given opportunities to play to them more often, by virtue of talking about strengths, I'm going to start noticing the strengths of people around me. Mm-hmm. I'm going to invite their strengths in to whatever it is that we're doing together. And it has this really cool ripple effect. And it's, I guess you could call it contagious. So that's why I would be part of a high performing team. So lots of reasons to focus on strengths.
Yes, no, and everything that you were saying about the engagement and increasing culture, productivity, that all ties in so well to the cruise retreat atmosphere, because that really is what it is that you want to enable your people to be able to do their best so that essentially you can get a higher return for your company.
Absolutely.
On the entrepreneur side, how can this be utilized? So if an entrepreneur is wanting to bring their following,
it's important for, first of all, as an individual, whether if it's a solopreneur, really, getting clear on what they do best and how they're going to serve their clientele, and everything they do in their business at their best, and then figure out, what drains me, what are the activities that bog me down, and how can I either work around them or maybe seek some help. Let's put my energies where I'm going to get the greatest return on investment, and get the help where in areas that I don't get as excited, that take me hours and hours and I dread and then I avoid, and that creates problems for me. and let me put my energy and my efforts into the areas that bring me the most fulfillment. So as a solopreneur, and then certainly as an entrepreneur, someone who might have a staff and people working for them, again, it's the same as a larger business. You want your people to be happy. They're going to perform their best when they feel like their strengths are being utilized, when they are engaged, and when they feel like when they're contributing in a meaningful way.
Yes.
You know, at the end of the day, we all want to feel like we're doing something meaningful, that our work is making a difference. So when you give your employees that opportunity, they're going to be happier, they're going to be more engaged, they're going to give you their absolute best and feel like a part of the team.
Yes.
And together you get further faster.
Yeah, and that's a really great point, that instead of putting up barriers to utilize your strengths, if everybody just work cohesively on what they can do best, you can get further faster. It won't take as long.
Yeah. Yeah.
So why shouldn't there be, and this goes into like the culture fit versus culture add, why shouldn't there be an emphasis on just certain strengths or a strength?
So there would be a hole. I feel like there would be really a hole. So, you know, in doing the research, the strengths ended up being, so in the process of doing the research, they uncovered hundreds of talents and were able to bubble them down into 34 general talent themes. And what's interesting is that half of the talent themes were task oriented, and the other half were relationship oriented. And then you could go on and about, you know, go into more detail, but just if we stay there, task and relationship. If I have an organization or a group of people that are focused only on task, then will they be able to really create a connection with clients and sell their services? Or, you know, influence the change, you know, in the community that they want? Or if someone was strictly on, you know, only if there were teams that only had, you know, only had relationship building skills, then maybe they won't have
nothing gets
the
done.
brilliant ideas, or you know, really be able to execute on those ideas. You need a mix of really all four: strategic thinkers and people who execute, the task oriented, and you need influencers and relationship builders that's on the relationship oriented side. So again, very high level, but I mean, just even looking at those, you can see missing one of them feels like a hole.
Yeah.
And we're not complete when we're operating on just one or a couple of them.
Yeah, because that, I think of like the bar stool analogy, when you have like the two of the three legs, but you can't really sit on the bar stool when there's that one leg missing.
So true.
Yeah. And then I also go back to the culture fit versus culture add, which the culture add is something that I had recently heard this past year, because it's always culture fit. Culture fit is the one that kind of comes to the forefront. Are you going to fit in with the culture of the organization? But what if people started focusing on what they could add to your culture to make it better, instead of making it the same that it's always, which it could be good, but why not try and make it a little better?
Yeah, and that's really cool. Those are new terms for me. I hadn't heard it put in that way before. But I'm even thinking of both culture fit and culture add, because what I bring kind of then blends with the rest of the group, and together we're better. The piece that I bring, it will, you know, hopefully blend and serve and fill a need in the overall group. and uh, and the way that other people contribute to my work, adds to how I fit into the organization and vice versa. That's really kind of cool.
Yeah, that it's kind of like a surge of energy once, because every person kind of does fit the puzzle, and I might not be so good at making relationships, but I'm great at a to-do list and tackling the to-do list. So, and you need all of them in order to have a functioning organization.
Absolutely.
What are kind of some organizations that you work with right now? Like what types of industries is utilizing strengths best for?
Oh my goodness. Well, any industry, any group could leverage the work of strengths. I'm working with different very different organizations. There's agencies, uh, whether advertising or business, coaching, training organizations, educational organizations, staffing, folks who lead the HR teams, in the education space. Any organization can take advantage of this because it's about relationships and how we work together to accomplish our goals. And it has to start with the self. Like, I have to understand who I am. What we call people acuity. Like it's called, the general overall people acuity, but it starts with me, self acuity. So I see myself, I understand who I am, I see how I contribute, I know what energizes me and how I want to be a part of what's going on. And I also understand how I'm showing up, how I'm using my strengths. Am I using them to their fullest, and they're accelerating my progress and what I want to accomplish, or are they getting in my way? So we start with that, because our strengths, we can, when we're using them effectively, amazing things happen, big things happen.
Yeah.
But when I overuse them, or when I underuse them, choose not to use them, that's when things go haywire.
Yeah.
And I'm not as effective. So first I have to understand and see how I'm using my strengths. Then I need others acuity, where I start to look at, well, how are my strengths impacting my relationships? How am I seeing other people in my world? How are they seeing me? How are we interacting together to accomplish the things that we're looking for, whether it's in a relationship at home, a relationship at work, in our community. It's important to have that sense too, and understand how I show up, how that impacts somebody else, and how I see them as well. And I start to understand when I start to pick up on the cues. What do strategic thinkers, how do they operate? How do they think? What do they typically say? Well, and what do they need? And then people who execute, what are their, how do they contribute?
Your employees or clients mean the world to you, so why don't you show them the world and a thing or two? If you're ready to take your cruise retreat idea to a working plan, you need the Cruise Retreat Toolkit, filled with calculators, templates, timelines, and more. The toolkit will get you 5 steps closer to your cruise ship retreat, and as a result of the retreat, more dedicated and motivated employees or clients. Grab it now at cruiseretreattoolkit.com and save $20 with the code podcast.
And what are maybe some of the triggers, that push them one way or another? And the same for influencers, relationship builders. I start to pick up on those cues, and I get it. Okay, I know I can call on this person for that thing, and I can call on this person to help me create, that important connection.
Mm-hmm.
And when I pick up on those cues, I also learn what is it that they need in order to operate at their best. So when I know that, then I can, I know that my friend who is a relationship builder needs to be in an authentic relationship, needs me to listen. Right now, it just needs me to listen.
Yeah.
Or my strategic thinker friend who dreams up amazing things needs a place to share information, to dream, and to share, so when I take the time to learn these things, how much better I'm able to invite people's strengths into my space, and how I'm able to serve them by meeting their needs as often as I can. And those are some of the things that, for example, you were talking about retreats. Those are some of the things that together we would explore and focus on and help.
Talking again off like the puzzle pieces, can someone think they have a strength, but when they take the assessment, that is not one of their strengths?
It's likely. I mean, it's possible. It's possible. But I think people go into the assessment kind of might not necessarily know what to expect, but they come out with strengths that really, a report that really speaks to them. Yeah, this is who I am.
Okay, good. I was wondering, because I can see it in it being in the case where you think you're good at something, like a very relating to myself is that I remember taking an accounting course way back when, and I was really great at accounting, but I don't want to be doing accounting or being associated with accounting.
Yep. So it's those are experiences that we, that you pay attention to, and so you might be really good at it, right? You perform well, but there's no energy there, right, Rita? No energy. So there are activities that where we perform well, but there's no energy. It is okay. There's performance. There's good performance, but if there's no energy, I'm not playing to my. I'm not in my optimal zone.
Yes.
And my optimal zone is when I'm playing at full energy and full my best performance. That's where I want to be. So it's important to pay attention to those things, because yes, there are things we do well, but we absolutely dread doing them and are completely drained. And what's the point?
Yeah.
What's the point? There are other things that bring us energy and that we perform well in, and that's where we're going to serve at the greatest capacity, and at the end of the day feel, I done good. I've done good work. I'm excited. I can't wait to get back on it tomorrow. Who wouldn't want to be in that place?
Yes.
Where they're on fire.
Yeah, no, and that's like, you're saying this and I'm like, oh, that's been this past year for me, because in my own travel business, I have been so focused on a broader thing. And it wasn't until about a year ago, almost exactly, that I realized where my heart really sings. And that's where I've been putting all my energy, which is the cruise retreats. And I just love the work that I do. So I can see how that can relate on both a corporate and entrepreneur side, that once you have identified the place where you're supposed to be, it's kind of like, I want to do it all and I want to do it to the best of my capacity. And what can I do to help even more and be more of service in either avenue?
Absolutely. Oh, that's so exciting.
So how can, like, once everybody's gone through their assessment, so talking more on the corporate side, how can, like, the bosses go ahead and utilize these strengths? Like, what can they do to kind of harness the power of people's strengths once they have been identified?
Conversation. But it's important to know that, first of all, these are places where there's opportunity for great performance.
Mm-hmm.
And by virtue of having, that aha moment from, getting your results, it requires discussion.
Mm-hmm.
They go so much deeper, and we have to be able to relate them to past experiences, to our hopes and dreams. So I would encourage just deeper conversation, and a path that I would recommend for any team really wanting to take advantage and leverage strengths is do the assessment, have the team do the assessment, do a workshop, do some training, get some learning about, again, self acuity and others acuity. Start getting, like, figuring out who you are and also how you relate to people around you.
Mm-hmm. Then
I really encourage one-on-one conversations.
Mm-hmm.
So part of my service is, to sit down with clients and really help them get clear and, again, articulate the contributions of their strengths
Mm-hmm.
and what they need in order to perform at their best.
Mm-hmm.
So when an individual has that knowledge, they volunteer what they want to do, where they want to work, what they do best in conversations with their manager. They're also more likely to ask for what they need. And when the manager becomes aware of the contributions and needs of their team members, they're able to then have those conversations and guide them and ask meaningful questions, like, where do you find fulfillment in your work? Mm-hmm. And how can I help you get where you want to go?
And that's so important.
Yeah.
That's part of the whole appreciation, and you're reinforcing the culture that you do want to build on the strengths and bring out the best and being in this for the long haul.
Yeah, absolutely.
So going into the retreats, if somebody wanted to bring you on board to do the whole strengths assessment, what does a session look like? Like, how long would it take? Should people do the assessment prior to boarding and then you can discuss on the ship?
It depends. There's so many different ways we could do it.
Mm-hmm.
And depends on how much time we have, but certainly the assessments prior to that's step one. Step two is a workshop, and we can do anything from a 3-hour workshop that's, kind of an introduction to, again, how I show up and how I see people,
mm-hmm.
to we could do a full 8-hour day event.
Oh, wow.
Where we deep dive
mm-hmm.
into, again, the first half of the day is all about understanding myself, self acuity. The second half of the day is getting, learning about each of the different domains, the strategic thinkers, executing, influencers, relationship builders, getting clear on how they contribute, what they need,
mm-hmm.
and some strategies for effective conversations, effective for me to show up at my best.
Mhm.
How do I break my strengths? How do I creatively solve problems? And how when things are a little bit sticky in relationships, how do I overcome that?
Yeah.
Through strengths.
Mm-hmm.
So those are some of the things that we would cover in a full day workshop.
Yeah, and I think that's just really great foundation or a really great refresher too.
Yeah.
So yeah, go ahead.
No. It is an energizing, just the full day workshop leaves you, it's a bonding experience
Mm-hmm.
for the team. When they really get a sense for who they see themselves in a different light, and when they see their team members, their coworkers, in a different light,
Mm-hmm.
and have different ways that they can interact with each other.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the whole purpose of doing a retreat, is to get people to bond and build those relationships or reinforce their relationships so that they can have just this lasting foundation in your business, so that you can retain them, they stay, and they produce amazing results.
Yeah.
So where can people reach out to you? I'll put your information in the show notes, but are you pretty active on any of the social media items?
Yep. Kicking things off on YouTube.
Oh, good.
And also a business Facebook page, and on Instagram.
Awesome.
And then certainly on my website, www.strengths-edge.com.
Okay.
And if folks want information about how to get started with the strengths assessment, my website is /strengthsfinder.
Okay.
So, and I can share all of that information with you for your show notes. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Nermine, for being on.
Thank you so much for having me, Rita.
Yeah,
I'm so excited for getting back on retreats.
I know it's coming. It's coming soon. But yeah, I think this is a really great way to kick off that big retreat, is to help people find their strengths and how they work well with your organization. So I think it's a really great partnership.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Thank you for joining me on the Cruise Retreat podcast. Please subscribe and leave the show a rating on your favorite podcast platform. And don't forget to take a look at the show notes for important information and links. See you next week.